I was 85 when they told me the truth, or at least the truth they thought was the truth. The room was dim. The air smelled like disinfectant and old paper, the kind of smell that clings to everything, even memories. The doctor said it was time, gently, as if trying not to break something fragile. "You've had a good life," he said, "and there's nothing more we can do." I heard the words, but I didn't feel them. Not really. I had lived a good life, a full life. We didn't need much. We never had much, really. Just a small house by the oak tree, the kind of place where the floors creak with every step, and the windows need a little elbow grease to open properly. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and that at 85 meant everything. I remember when we bought it, young, full of dreams that didn't need a lot of money, just love and work. And we had both in spades. The walls had been painted 3 times. The yard had been tended to in seasons, in storms, and bright spring mornings. The oak tree in the front yard was the one we planted together when we had nothing but hope and a handful of seeds. When we returned to the house after the doctor told me what was coming, it didn't look any different. The same pictures hung on the walls, the same old chair by the fireplace where I'd read my newspaper every morning. And she was there, in her usual place, wearing her favorite knitted shawl, sitting at the kitchen table, her cup of tea steaming in front of her. I sat down beside her, and for the first time in days, I felt a weight lifted from my chest. Not because I was feeling better, but because I was home. There was something about the house, the way it smelled like lavender soap and cinnamon rolls, the way the sunlight would spill across the floor in the afternoons. It made me feel like I could fight again, even if it was just for today, even if the world outside was telling me that time was short. Inside those walls, it felt like anything was possible. And she looked at me like I was still the man she had married, the man who danced with her in the kitchen when the lights went out, the man who promised her 1,000 sunrises. In the days that followed, I spent my time in the places I loved most. The kitchen where she cooked, the living room where we sat side by side every evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon. And when I could stand, we walked outside to the oak tree, the one we planted together. I didn't talk about the hospice. I didn't talk about what the doctor said. I didn't talk about how many days I had left. Instead, we talked about the past, about the trips we took, the little things that made us laugh. The way her smile still made my heart flutter, even after all these years. Every moment with her in those final days felt like a prayer. Not for my health, not for another chance at life, but for the time we still had. And in the silence of that house, the hum of life continued. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. Every moment, every smile, every step. But the hardest part wasn't the diagnosis. The hardest part wasn't the words hospice care or comfort measures or any of the sterile terms they used to describe the end. No, the hardest part was looking at her. She was sitting in the chair next to my bed, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her eyes so full of love and fear, like she was holding on to me with everything she had, and I knew. I knew that she wasn't ready, and I wasn't either. She didn't ask me to stay. She never would have. But I saw it in the way she looked at me, in the way she squeezed my hand every time I tried to look away. Her eyes, the same eyes I had seen every morning for the last 55 years, were saying something she couldn't put into words. "Don't leave me." And in that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in a bad way, not in a desperate way, but in a way. They told me I had days, maybe weeks if I was lucky, but I didn't feel ready. Not while she was still sitting beside me, her face full of hope, even if she didn't know how to say it. So I made a decision. I refused the hospice bed. I asked to go home. The doctors didn't understand. They said it would be easier for her if I stayed in the facility. They said she would have help, and I would be comfortable, and everything would be calm and gentle. But gentle wasn't what we needed. I needed to be with her, and she needed me to be with her. I couldn't bear the thought of spending my last days in a sterile room, not when I could still feel the warmth of her hand in mine, not when I could still hear her voice when she whispered my name at night, like it was the only word that mattered. So I told them no, and the rest of the world faded a little. We went home together. I knew I didn't have much time, but I knew this. I wanted to live whatever was left of it, with her. The first day we were home, I woke early, earlier than I'd planned. I didn't need the alarm clock. It was the sound of the birds outside the window that did it, chirping just as they always had. A gentle reminder that life outside kept moving. She was still asleep beside me, the same way she had been for 50-some years. Her face soft in the morning light, peaceful, untroubled. But I wasn't sure if I could keep this peace for long. The doctor had been clear, and I had seen the charts, the tests, the results. My time was running out. But at that moment, with her there beside me, I couldn't let go. I made a decision that morning. I wouldn't spend the time I had left feeling sorry for myself. I wouldn't let my body be my prison. If I had today, I was going to spend it with her, by her side, just like I'd promised her all those years ago. So I slowly sat up, took a deep breath, and winced a little. The pain was still there, sharp in my ribs. But I had learned to live with it, and it didn't stop me, not anymore. I moved across the room as quietly as I could, not wanting to wake her just yet. The kitchen, where we had spent most mornings together, her coffee brewing, my cup of tea waiting. I put the kettle on. It took me a little longer than it used to. My hands trembled more now, but I made the tea the way we always did, just the way she liked it. By the time she came down the stairs, the scent of tea was in the air. She stopped in the doorway and smiled, a soft smile that reached her eyes like it always had. "You're up early," she said, her voice hushed but warm. "I couldn't sleep." I shrugged, trying to hide the truth behind my words. It wasn't just insomnia that had kept me awake. "I thought you might need help." I gestured to the table where she had left the book she'd been reading last night. "I thought I'd make your tea." She didn't say anything at first, just walked over and sat across from me, taking the cup from my hands. Her eyes softened. "You're sure you're okay?" I nodded, taking a deep breath. "I'm okay," I said quietly, but inside my heart felt heavy. And then she took my hand in hers, just like she always had, when I needed to be reminded that I wasn't alone. "I'm here," she said, and for that one moment, the weight of everything lifted just a little. I didn't have to talk about what was happening. I didn't need to discuss the clock ticking down. She was here and I was here, and that was all that mattered. We spent the rest of the morning together. Small, quiet moments. Her reading, me sitting by her side, her hand resting on my knee. And as the day passed, I found that I could breathe a little easier. The light in our house didn't feel so distant. I didn't feel so alone. And when the afternoon came and she asked if I wanted to sit on the porch, I said yes. Because I had learned in that moment that sometimes life isn't about fixing everything. It's about being there, together. And that was enough. The day started to feel different, not better, not the way a miracle might feel, but enough. I wasn't running marathons, I wasn't dancing on my feet, but each day I managed to take a step and then another. Not in the way I used to, not with the vigor of youth, but with the quiet determination of someone who has learned that sometimes just getting up is the biggest victory. We spent more time outside, on the porch, in the garden. She still planted her flowers, and I still helped, even when I couldn't bend down without gasping for air. But we did it together. I'd hold her hand while she knelt in the dirt, and she'd laugh when I told her she was getting dirt under her nails, just like she always had. The small things felt big again. Her laughter echoed in my chest like music. I began to see her with new eyes, not as a woman who had been there all my life, but as the one thing I couldn't live without. The anchor, the reason for all the days before, and the one still ahead. I was still weak, still in pain, still hearing the ticking of time. But in these moments, the ticking didn't matter so much because I wasn't alone anymore. Some days were harder than others. Some days the pain felt unbearable, and I would sit alone, staring out the window, wondering if I could make it through another day. But then I would feel her hand on my shoulder, her voice soft and steady. "Are you okay, love?" And for some reason, her words were all it took to lift me back up. It wasn't magic, it wasn't anything as dramatic, but it was the kind of comfort only someone who truly knows you can provide. And I would look at her, at the woman who had been with me through every high and every low, and I knew I couldn't stop fighting. Because she needed me, not for the big thing, but for the everyday things. She needed me to hold her hand. She needed me to share the quiet mornings with her, the sunsets on the porch, the simple moments that made life feel alive. I started taking walks again, slowly, with her beside me, one step at a time. We'd walk to the end of the driveway and back, and then a little further the next day. Every step was a small battle, but I was winning them. One morning, I found myself standing on the porch, watching the sun rise over the lake. The morning light was gentle, filling the house with a warmth that felt like hope. And she was beside me, just like she always had been. Her hand in mine, her eyes still bright. We didn't need to say anything. Just standing there together in the stillness of the dawn was enough. I didn't know how much time I had left. None of us do. But for the first time in months, I wasn't scared. Because I knew one thing for sure. As long as I had her beside me, I would keep fighting. One day at a time, one step at a time. As the days passed, I found myself more at peace with the idea of time. It's a strange thing, time. When you're young, you race through it, thinking there's always more ahead of you. But when you're older, when you're fighting for every day, time becomes something different. It's not something to be rushed, it's something to be spent. And I spent every second of my days with her. The mornings felt like a gift, her hand in mine, the smell of coffee filling the air. She didn't ask for much. She never needed grand gestures or promises. She just needed me, here, present, with her. There were still moments of doubt, times when the pain would flare up and I'd wonder if I had the strength to keep going. But then I'd see her, see the way she looked at me, the way her eyes still held that same love, the same trust, the same belief that I could fight through anything. And I realized it wasn't about fighting for her, it was about fighting with her. We weren't two people living in the same house anymore. We were two souls fighting for every shared moment, every laugh, every quiet night, every step we took together. I didn't need to prove anything to the world. I didn't need to conquer anything more than what was right in front of me. Her smile, her warmth, the simple act of being with her. And I saw it then. The beauty of life doesn't come from the moments we've planned or expected. It comes from the ones we share, the ones that grow naturally, from the love that flows without effort, from the days we think will be our last but instead become some of the most treasured. I didn't need to have all the answers anymore. I didn't need to worry about what came next, because at that moment, I knew that I had already lived my greatest adventure with her. And when the days became difficult, when the pain was sharp and the nights felt too long, I'd hold her hand tighter and remind myself, this is what it means to be alive. To choose to love even when you can't control the time left. To choose to fight, not for yourself, but for the person who has shared every moment with you. And if the next day comes, I'll hold her hand again. I'll face whatever comes, because every day with her is a victory. In the stillness of those final months, I came to realize something that took me a lifetime to understand. Life isn't about the years we live, it's about the moments we share. When I look back, I don't think about the number of breaths I've taken, or the places I've been, or the goals I've met. I think about the mornings we woke up together, her hand warm in mine. I think about the nights we sat in silence, knowing we didn't need to say anything because we understood. I think about the simple joy of making tea for her, or fixing her favorite meal, and the way her eyes would light up like it was a grand feast. These moments, these small moments, are the ones that fill a lifetime. And the best part? I got to share them with the woman I love, the woman who stayed by my side through every storm, through every struggle. She didn't give up on me, and in turn, I didn't give up on her. When I woke each morning, I woke not for myself, but for her, for us, for the quiet mornings on the porch, for the way the sun rises over the lake, the same way it did when we first fell in love. I chose to live, not because it was easy, but because she was worth it. Every fight, every step, every breath. If you're listening to this and you're feeling like your time is running out, know this. It's never too late to choose love. It's never too late to make every moment count. Even when the world tells you that time is short, love is infinite. And when you have someone to love, every second is worth fighting for. So take that hand, hold on tight, and dance, even when you don't know how much time you have left. Because love is the only thing that keeps you going.